Hello, it's Esther Stanhope here, and Lee, my fellow international speaker. Hello, Lee, how are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
We thought we'd get together because we always have loads of tips to share with each other. And we thought we'd share them with you, tips on how to look good, sound good, and feel good on video and remote meetings. And today our tip is about vocal strength and having a vocal warm-up. Lee actually is a performer by trade, and he knows all about voice. He's got a very good voice. Let's hear a bit of the low range of your voice, Lee.
The very lower range. It's very nice of you to say that I've got a
Well,
nice
it's a
voice.
very good afternoon. Good
I do.
afternoon.
I used to do quite a lot of what's called voice of God in events. So voice of God is the disembodied voice you hear telling you to sit down for dinner, and so I got quite good at the tone of ladies and gentlemen, the evening will begin in 2 minutes. Please take your seats.
Oh my God, I can imagine being in that room now at the cinema. You're not the man that says a no nose picking at the back. I think that might be Mark Strong, but you're definitely a perfect voiceover material. But actually, obviously, when you're on video and when you're doing remote meetings and you're doing a town hall or any form of communication, it's really, really good if your voice is quite strong. So what's your, long-term tip? Let's do long-term and short-term tips to have a really good voice.
Yeah, well, so the long-term tip is the more relaxed you are and the more you understand how your voice works, the better your voice will sound. So basically, go to a voice teacher if you're really, really interested in voice, or an Alexander Technique teacher. I trained as an Alexander Technique teacher several years ago. I don't teach anymore, and it's one of the best things I ever did for my voice, because a good voice really comes out of a lot of relaxation in the body. It lets your voice resonate and expand.
An Alexander Technique actually is all about posture and making lots of room in your body, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about letting your mind and your body work as effectively as they can, really, as easily and freely. And tense people don't have good voices, and often people are tense because of the sound of their voice.
Right.
So you want to find ways of releasing that tension as much as possible.
Gosh, I think I better start relaxing more. So this is my first quick tip: water.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Stay hydrated. And I'd tell you, I'd add to that tip slightly, and this is something I learned doing live keynotes, but I've taken it also into virtual stuff, which is what I always do is I have my water in a sports bottle, so you have to make an effort to get the water out, because the number of times I've seen people knock water over, or take a lid off and a bit of water goes on the laptop or whatever. So a sports bottle, so you have to make an effort to get the water out.
Gosh, this is advanced stuff here now. A sports bottle, you can imagine if I had that and it went over my keyboard, that would be a disaster. And the other one is also, if you have sparkling water, could be a no-no on your lapel mic.
Yeah. I'd say don't have sparkling water in general when you're presenting, because belching is not the best way to get your major point across when you're asking for more resources in Q4, right?
Absolutely. So give us a couple of quick fixes. And I know that you're a vocal expert. So, is there such a thing as a quick fix?
There is actually. There definitely are some quick fixes. And in fact, there's one thing, and this is probably a bit controversial because I'm saying the opposite to what many people say, is I would avoid anything like tongue twisters or anything technically difficult, because you can easily set yourself up for failure. And what you want in your voice is you want to feel as confident and compelling as possible. And the last thing you want to do 2 minutes before a presentation is try something tricky and think, oh, I didn't do that right, because it sort of reduces your self-esteem, if you like.
Oh gosh, I've been telling people to do tongue twisters.
In the comfort of your own home, to practice articulation, it's fine. But I would never do it as a warm-up, right?
Oh, right.
So the quick fix is a warm-up. That's the quick fix. And there's three very simple things. So the first is you want your voice to be as resonant as possible. So it sort of sounds like a bell tolling. And the way to get that is to make lots of sounds that involve the letter M. So you make a sound like you're sinking into a hot warm bath or eating plain dark organic chocolate in my case. So it's just a sort of very gentle. Don't do it when anyone else is looking at you.
No.
You've got to go off and do it on your own. But what that does is it just lets the front of your face vibrate a bit and your torso vibrate, and you get this nice bell tolling. I'm not sure if it'll come across well on the microphone, but if I tense my torso, if I suddenly get muscularly tense, the volume's the same, but I sound a bit tenser. I sound a bit breathier to myself.
Yeah.
Whereas,
Yeah.
if I let the resonance come back into my voice, you can hear a bit more sort of authority there. So that's the first thing.
So relaxing this part of your body, really.
Yeah,
Quite hard when you're nervous.
Yeah, and so do it standing up, or I always make sure I'm sitting near to the front of a chair. You don't want to be sort of sat back and slumped in a chair because your vocal energy dissipates.
Yeah.
Then the second thing I always do is say out loud either a word or a sentence with lots of M's or N's in it to encourage that resonance. So it can be a word like mademoiselle or marmalade. And the sentence I always use, because it just makes me laugh and puts me in a good state, is I always say, remember the money. Right?
Remember the money. Remember the money. Okay, well, that's kind of like a tongue twister, but it's more like
very easy.
Easy saying. Yeah.
You can't get it wrong, right? Remember, but also it just makes me smile every time I do it. It puts me in a good state.
Remember
the very last thing. You're not going to stop remembering the money, are you? The last thing is say out loud. I don't recommend learning every single line of a presentation or a meeting, but say out loud whatever you're going to say first in that meeting or that presentation. Say out loud the first line a couple of times. So it might be something really simple like, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our weekly update. And just say that 2 or 3 times before you begin. It's not a tongue twister.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our weekly update. Welcome to our weekly update. Welcome to our weekly. I do that actually in my head sometimes. That's funny.
Yeah.
So I've been. I mean, I've written in my book. I've been saying about tongue twisters, but partly as a kind of team exercise. If you're with pitch teams, for example, because I always talk about smiling. When you smile, that really does help your voice. Do you find that as well? When you smile, that gives you more room. You're more relaxed. It softens the lower palate. Am I saying the right things here, Lee? Because I know
absolutely.
You're a proper expert. And quite often I find tongue twisters with the team, if it's a pitch team, for example, and they're all saying at the same time, Irish wristwatch, all at the same time. It's making them smile and laugh and move their tongues around a little bit. So I think you're right, though. I think it's about you don't want to set yourself up for failure. It's more, for me, it's about relaxing and having a bit of, giving your mouth and your face a bit of a few fun things to do to help you relax.
I couldn't agree more. The reason I came up with a really quick 3-step mini ritual is I think certainly most of my clients are really busy, right? They're really busy and they just want to know, look, I've got this important presentation this afternoon. Just make me good for it really quickly.
Yeah, quickly, yeah. Okay.
So I wanted something that people can do in 30 seconds and feel really good at the end and really ready to go. And I think there's a hidden benefit, Esther, in having a sort of vocal warm-up mini ritual that you're giving yourself just a bit of mental time and space. And something happened. There's a client of mine, and she's really senior. She's really senior in a technology business. Yeah. And she had to go for basically a pitch meeting to a very, very large investment bank. Yeah. And there was a series of catastrophes that meant she was going to arrive late for this really important meeting. Yeah. And she was in a right state about it. And she's super. I mean, she flies everywhere and taxis everywhere. Super senior. And she said, she told me afterwards, she said, what I did when I was going in the building, she said, I took your advice and my advice to her always was, the more stressed you're feeling, the more panicky you're feeling, the more you need to stop and prepare yourself. And it will feel like the wrong thing to do. Yeah. And she said, and I did it. She said, I arrived at the place, I went into the loo, I just 30-second quick vocal warm up. And she said, and I was so much better than running in the meeting and going, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm late. I'm blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So it's a really good psychological thing to do.
Oh, I've got loads of things to do in the loo, but that's for another time because we're just talking about voice for this one. Excellent. So a quick vocal warm-up ritual before you do your remote meeting or before you do any kind of meeting, you will sound so much better.